What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Canes Insight Daily Podcast, powered by Anijar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Portal rankings up, some Miami names surging up the charts. One expert at 247 said this is the most talented portal class in the country. We'll jump into that. Big news of the day. Miami has hired a new defensive backs coach. He's not the defensive backs coach, but he is a defensive backs coach. We will talk about Terry Jefferson, someone that we've been watching since he was in high school. Also, Miami recruits are starting to set official visits to Coral Gables. We're going to talk about a few of them where Miami has a little bit of momentum and would be exciting prospects for the Canes to land. First, talk about some folks that keep the momentum always. That is Anijar and Levine Accident Attorneys. If you or someone you care about has been injured in an accident, you could be entitled to significant compensation. Dial 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. Take back control of your life with Anijar and Levine. Pete, hop in here.
Oh, I hopped in before you even told me to hop in, man. Sorry about that.
Premature hop. How we feeling?
Feeling good, man. The plug is back, and I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about Terry Jefferson. That was his nickname back in high school. Terry the Plug Jefferson, man.
Pull out some of those tweets.
I have them ready, man. I have them ready. I have tweets like this for days, man. You and I have you pull up the posts from Canes Inside. I pull up the tweets from my account back in the day, and here we go. I don't have this for some reason. I guess this was at Booker T signing day. This is February 4th, 2015. Terry Jefferson presented with a Burger King Scholars check of $5,000.
Wait, hold on. What's the date?
February 4th, 2015. Wow.
That's 10 years to the day.
10 years ago to the day. Wow.
So just for some background, guys, before you go through all the tweets. Terry Jefferson, defensive. This is the cornerbacks coach at Jacksonville State. Worked at Miami for 3 years prior. Miami Booker T grad. Florida and A&M alum, has now returned to the Miami Hurricanes for a kind of unnamed defensive back role. It's an off-field role, but this is modern college football. Those off-field and on-field roles have been blurred. Think of like a DVD type role. Terry Jefferson is going to be playing a big part in the Miami Hurricanes defensive backfield going forward, but we covered him when he was recruited, as Pete pointed out, 10 years ago to the day. Pete was tweeting about Terry Jefferson. So the more things change, the more things stay the same. What else you got on Terry?
Let me see. I had this one here. I said, Booker T. Washington athlete Terry Jefferson is one of my favorite prospects in South Florida. Just makes plays. Very descriptive of his abilities out there. But he was an undersized linebacker out there. And I mean, that was on the team with like Chad Thomas and Matthew Thomas and who else? You had Nigel Patton at corner. You had Chibo Norris at receiver. You had Crondis Larry at slot receiver. You had Mark Walton on that team. Treon Harris, obviously, at quarterback. So loaded team, man.
Yeah, that was a heck of a team, Booker T. Small guys, they all went like both ways, and they really overperformed where they.
This is the last projected. One I'll show. Watching at @touchmoney_plugs highlights. Terry Jefferson. And it's an absolute crime he's not getting more attention.
When you tweet that?
July 11th, 2014 at 10:35 a.m.
Oh, man,
I was locked in, man. I was locked in on the Terry Jefferson highlights.
Over 10 years, man. We haven't gone very far, have we? So Jefferson he was at Miami for 3 years, like we mentioned, coaching guys like Cam Kitchens, James Williams here at Miami. Moves on to Jacksonville State, where he was working with personnel, working with defensive backs under Rich Rodriguez. 18-9 record, Conference USA title this past fall. You see that picture of Jefferson with the title. While at Jacksonville State, they had the fewest passing touchdowns in the conference, second league in interceptions. And what really catches my eye is the amount of Jacksonville State defensive backs that have gone to the Power 4 level, whether it's Derek Carter, Fred Perry to West Virginia, Fred Davis to Northwestern. You've got, of course, Zechariah Poyser going to the University of Miami, Jameer Latimer going to Wisconsin. So he's developing these Jacksonville State defensive backs, along with others, into Power 4 players, one of whom is now Miami. We mentioned Zechariah Poyser, who is the number 2 safety in the portal, one of the best players in the portal, according to the new rankings that just came out. And I know that when he came here, Terry Jefferson gave him a pretty strong review, said he had a plus 40 plus vertical inch, and that he was the real deal. So that was, It's not like he gave him to us because obviously I'm sure he'd rather him stay at Jacksonville State at the time. But when he did enter the portal and started talking to Miami, I know Terry Jefferson was big on that fit with Poyser coming to Miami. Now they reunite here along with Zach Etheridge, Miami's new cornerbacks coach from Auburn. So, man, I'm kind of blown away by the by the full circle nature of this whole thing.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty wild, man. But that's the nature of this thing, right?
This is, certain things just make sense fit wise. So going to the fit, familiar with the program, coached here for I believe 3 years, proves himself elsewhere, getting more out of less, and getting guys to develop. Recruiting, this guy's from Booker T. Could have used him last year. We were trying to recruit Ben Hanks, the best cornerback in South Florida, probably the best player in South Florida. Would have been nice to have Terry Jefferson last year, who is a very, very prominent player at that school. And I remember watching Terry Jefferson. He was somebody who was much better than his tools, right? He was small. He wasn't that fast. All he did was make plays, tremendous instincts. You could tell he had a great feel for the game, kind of like a coach on the field. Went to Florida A&M, was an extremely productive player at the HBCU level, just an outstanding football player who overcame his measurables, exactly what you want in a coaching candidate, because he sees the game a certain way. So, I'm excited to see this. You saw the tweet from Chris Ewald Sr., which is the father of Chris Ewald Jr., Miami Hurricanes signee, freshman corner, who's now on campus. Chris Ewald Sr. tweeting, there's more to come, clearly hinting at additional DB coach hires. Seem pretty excited about them. We'll see who is added at that spot. We talked about Zach Etheridge on a prior podcast. Really, really love that fit. Everybody talked to at Auburn says this guy's an absolute superstar, and we're kind of lucky to have him. Circumstances worked out a certain way that he became available, even though he's an Auburn guy. So that DB room is starting to look a certain way. There you see Chris Ewald loves to hire. So. Yeah, man. Well, he's going to have some pretty good guys to coach, Pete, because you look at the transfer portal rankings, which just came out according to 247, and a lot of Canes making moves, particularly in the defensive backfield. But let's start just for some background. 247, which has probably the best transfer portal team. Certainly, they've really invested in getting guys from NCAA personnel departments in the building to evaluate the portal, really look at it, and improve the portal rankings, which were kind of off in the past. You had Cam Ward, number 4 quarterback in the portal last year, right? And the guy Aiden Childs from Michigan State was number 1. So they wanted to really overhaul that and do a better job, and I think they've done it. And Miami has clearly benefited from the second look in the evaluation process. Carson Beck, he was the number 1 overall player in the portal, slips a little bit to the number 3 overall player in the portal, but he's still the number 1 quarterback. Look at CJ Daniels, number 21 wide receiver, 4-star. James Brockermeyer, the center, gets a big bump to an 88 overall. David Blay, the defensive tackle from Louisiana Tech, who I'm hearing great reviews about on campus. He's already here working out. Number 3 defensive tackle, number 48 overall. But here's where the action is. This is exactly where Terry Jefferson is going to be coaching. Number 1 corner in the country in the portal, Xavier Lucas. He was number 2. Now he's number 1. 10'4", 900 meters, 6'2", 200. Second highest rated player on Wisconsin's defense as a freshman. We know what he's all about. We know why Wisconsin was crying so much when he left. By the way, like we talked about, where's that lawsuit? Wisconsin made a lot of noise about that lawsuit, P. What did we say?
Nothing was going to happen.
Nothing's happened. But Xavier Lucas is in Miami working out, the number 1 cornerback in the portal. You have your problem's cornerback. We saw it last year. Defensive back was the biggest problem at Miami. So what do you do? Number 1 cornerback in the portal with 3 years of eligibility. Then the number 9 cornerback in the portal, Ethan O'Connor from Washington State. He made a huge jump. He was a 3-star in the initial rankings, jumps all the way up to number 9 corner in the country, high 4-star type player in the portal. I've heard great things about what he's doing in these early workouts. Really twitchy, really talented, over 6 foot, 4 interceptions last year for Washington State. Number 11 corner in the portal, Charles Brantley, the veteran of the group from Michigan State, highly productive player entering his 5th year, originally from Venice, but spent the last 4 years at Michigan State. Number 12 corner in the country, Emmanuel Carnley from Arizona transfer. So you go into the portal, you get number 1 corner in the portal, number 9 corner in the portal, number 11 corner in the portal, number 12 corner in the portal. All 4 stars. All 4 stars, all top 100 players in the portal. And it's like recruiting. Top 100 is a meaningful distinction. There's a lot of dudes in the portal. So if you're top 100, you're a blue chip player. The number 2 safety in the entire portal, Zechariah Poyser from Jacksonville State. previously coached by Terry Jefferson, number 53 overall player in the portal, high 4-star. So this is an incredible infusion of talent, Pete, particularly at the defensive back position. When I'm rattling off these top 10 corners, top 12 corners. Remember, every team needs corners. So Miami, it's not just that Miami landed so many blue chip players, it's that the competition for those guys was particularly fierce, and they still landed a high volume of players, 3 of whom have 3 years of eligibility left.
That's what I was going to say. That it's you get a mix of the experience, but this isn't just a quick fix. This is something you could say, man, we're pretty sorted out there. Not completely. You still need to continue to build that depth. You need to get, a DJ Pickett still would have been a factor in this defensive backfield. The Ben Hanks still would have been a factor, right? Like, you still need to go recruit those guys. But you're not saying to yourself, well, I feel good about it just this year, and then we're in trouble again unless we land an elite guy or, patch it up again. Like, you got to feel pretty good about the fact that Lucas, O'Connor, Carnley, these guys all have multiple years of eligibility here.
Yeah.
Poyser's
another redshirt freshman. So really the only veteran of the group is Brantley, and you need a veteran, right? Especially with a group that was underachieving last year. But the young players are not young players that just went to some place and didn't like it and left. These are young players that played. So it's the best of both worlds from an eligibility standpoint and experience standpoint. That's part of the reason why they are ranked so high. So there were superlatives on 247. There's an article from Clint Brewster, saying, like, here's the best trench class, here's the best quarterback haul. In the category of most talented portal class, he selects the Miami Hurricanes. Here's what they wrote in 247. Miami made a big splash in the 2024 transfer portal cycle, and it worked. The Hurricanes once again spent the bankroll on a portal class of exciting players, landing 7 players inside our top 100. And each and every one of those players has elite level upside. People get mad when Canes fans use the word elite. This is not me saying it. This is not Gabby Rudia saying it. This is Clint Brewster, national portal guy for 247. He says, we especially like lengthy cornerback Xavier Lucas from Wisconsin. Sorry, Wisconsin. We're still waiting for the lawsuit. Who ran a 10.4 second 100-meter dash in high school. There's also former Louisiana Tech defensive lineman David Blay, who brings explosive athletic ability coming off the line. This is me talking now. If you have any questions about David Blay, go to YouTube, watch Arkansas versus Louisiana Tech. The whole game's there on YouTube, and you could zero in on David Blay. He lined up right up in front of the nose and completely disrupted that game. I think he's even better if you move into more traditional 3 technique, but he showed the ability to hold the point against an SEC offensive line with some size. All right, back to 247. Finally, Zechariah Poyser from Jacksonville State brings length and playmaking from the group of 5 level. Arizona's Emmanuel Carnley, this is the 6'3 corner who started last year opposite Tacario Davis, the number 2 corner in the portal, is another prospect with a huge ceiling as a 6'3" cornerback that can play isolated on an island. Wide receiver CJ Daniels from LSU brings a productive veteran presence for the aforementioned Beck to work with. So when there were disappointments on signing day, the word we were getting from UM was, look, yes, we're disappointed we missed on some defensive targets. We feel good about some of these guys we landed, like Hayden Lowe, who's balling in these early workouts and looks like the real deal, newly minted 5-star. So they liked our offensive class. They like some of the guys we got. But yes, we understand we missed on some defensive guys. We expect to go very, very hard in the portal to overhaul the secondary. We got the ability to do it. A lot of Canes fans, and I understand the reaction, said, well, that's cope. You're just, it's like, it's like just pushing along the disappointment down the road. Yeah, the defensive class didn't finish as much as we wanted to or as well as we wanted to. So we're going to push it down to the portal. That'll probably be a disappointment too. I think we can say right here, let me know if I'm wrong in the comments, that we are not disappointed in what happened in the portal defensive back. It is impossible to do better from a portal standpoint than Miami's done at the defensive back position this year.
Yeah, I think unfortunately still people will be in wait and see mode, as I think it's fair to think that they probably should be with the new coordinator coming in. Everyone's excited about it, but after as bad as it was last year, again, it's a completely different group like we're talking about now. But I think people are still cautiously optimistic here because you're flipping the room completely, a whole new staff in there defensively, coaching that unit. Hopefully it's the fix, and I think it will be. But yeah, I think people are still a little scarred from what they saw last season.
Yeah, question from Peanut Hickman. Will Jefferson coach corners or safeties? Etheridge is going to be the main cornerbacks coach. Remains to be seen whether there's going to be an actual on-field safeties coach as one of the 10. I think very possible, but that's not been confirmed. Jefferson, from what I understand, and Gabby Rudy reported this first, that it sounds like he's going to be an off-field, on-field role. Again, the rules have changed with respect to what these guys can do, but it sounds like he's going to be somewhat like DVD was DeMarcus Van Dyke back when he was here. But because the rules have been relaxed, he can do a little more in terms of recruiting and on field.
I saw someone commented earlier on DVD. Let me see. I think it was 850 Kane. I think he was saying that he says they should have brought DVD back. So stupid. Look, I think DVD has an extremely bright future in coaching. And I've said this before, let him run his own room, develop his own room, recruit his own room fully over there at USF. And I think it's going to be a great experience for him in his career. Etheridge is a guy at this point who's dealt with, SEC rooms at Auburn, coached really good units at Houston, and has a track record of recruiting and developing guys who have gone on to the pros, right? Dating back to his first time at Houston. So I'm a huge fan of DVDs. I think he's, at some point probably going to end back up at Miami, if we're being honest. But I think this is a really good experience for him to run his own room and completely have it as his own. I don't know if you agree with me or not.
Nope, I agree. I think you don't have to rush these things. It's not about Miami ties necessarily, although the recruiting ties for a guy like Jefferson helps. This is about getting the best coaches for the University of Miami when it's the right timing. And I think for DVD, that time will come. One thing I wanted to touch on, Pete, that we didn't talk about yet, Shannon Dawson, Ohio State. So it's been reported by On3, he's on the list of potential candidates. Talking to some people, there certainly is some interest between Ohio State, or at least from Ohio State to Shannon Dawson. I don't know if it's reciprocal or not. Obviously, anytime the defending national champion is going after one of your coaches, that is a concern, particularly if you just have the number one offense in the country. We'll see. Brian Hartline's been kind of waiting for that job. If he doesn't get that job, who knows what happens there? Obviously, Brian Hartline, huge recruiter in South Florida, big part of why Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate have stuck around despite teams trying to get them to jump in the portal, reportedly. So we'll see how that whole situation unfolds. I'm told there is real interest, but there's always a lot of interest in a lot of coaches. So that doesn't mean something is imminent. From a Dawson perspective, I think his next move is probably to be a head coach. And if I'm him, I'm a little worried about Ohio State next year, not because they're not going to have great talent. The defending champs are good every year. But, Julian Sain, I only saw limited snaps of his because he didn't play that much. Will Howard was the starter, obviously. But I didn't love what I saw from Julian Sain. He looked small and his arm looked weak. And those were kind of knocks on him coming out, not being the most physically talented guy. You have Jeremiah Smith coming back, best player in the country. That'll make your offense easier, but your expectations are the best. So if Dawson, who had the number one offense in the country this year, goes to Ohio State and they take a step back through no fault of his own just because the quarterback's not as good, that's not a great situation for him. They're bringing in new running backs. They're replacing important guys on the offense. I mean, they're replacing a lot, even though they are bringing back Jeremiah. So, yes, Ohio State's a better program than Miami. It was not a better offense this year. Miami had the number one offense, but with a better, higher level program, there's higher level expectations. And if you go there and take a step down, even if you go from number 2 to number 15, that doesn't look so good on your resume, even though you're number 15 in the country as far as offense. Right. So it's not as simple as, Ohio State's a better program. It makes sense for him to go there. I think for him, he has to weigh, I have Carson Beck coming off an injury. That's a risk. But Julian Sain, I've never even seen him play. So that's a risk. And so much of your offensive coordinator success is tied to the quarterback. We threw a ton of interceptions in 23. Tyler Van Dyke was the reason. We had the best offense in the country this past year. Cam Ward was a pretty big reason. So these are all things that Shannon Dawson has to weigh. But, it's going to be interesting to watch.
Stephen Aveo, appreciate the support as always, man. He says, for what you've seen so far of Justin Scott, do you think he's going to be the 5-star type talent we recruited? I'm excited about Justin Scott, man. I really am. This is a big spring for him. He needs to keep getting stronger in the weight room. Those D tackles, it's not always easy for these young D tackles to come in and set the world on fire right away. So we saw some glimpses of it. Athletically, it's through the roof. I mean, his movement as a D tackle is phenomenal. I think it's the power, it's the strength, and you got to keep work. He's a basketball guy, man. Those basketball guys, we gotta get him to forget he ever played basketball and just stay in that weight room and be a fat boy now. So I think that's what it comes down to for him. The talent is there, and look, he's a hard worker. From what I've heard, it's just keep reminding him he's a football player.
Yeah, and look, something I've heard from kind of these salty SEC coaches is defensive tackle is a position you need to grow a mustache, right? Meaning physical maturity is huge, especially at that position in the trenches with those big, nasty guards, some of whom are fifth-year seniors. You got to develop a little bit physically. He got in here in fall. He did not get here in spring. So he was kind of playing from behind, still found his way on the field. But this is the year you'd expect to see a jump from him. Huge spring for Justin Scott. He's got the size, got the athleticism, smart kid as well. I think it's going to be very fun to watch him in spring. He's certainly going to be one of those guys that you keep an eye on.
The Dawson discourse always interests me, D. There's a lot of people in the fan base who aren't fans of his. I know year one there were some ups and downs with Van Dyke, and everyone is gonna point to the fact that he had Cam Ward in year two, so that obviously was a big help to him. But I think you look at his track record and like he's done a really good job over the years. Even the year with Van Dyke, there was a lot of issues, obviously, but there were a lot of numbers that had Miami in the top 25, top 30.
Yeah, and they were in the hundreds, the deep hundreds the year before with Gaddis. So, obviously the improved offensive line had a lot to do with that as well. But there's a reason why Ohio State's after Dawson, and that part of it's real. Now, they're after a lot of guys. It doesn't mean that they've zeroed in on Dawson or anything like that. I've not heard that. But there's a reason why he's on these lists. When you have the number one offense in the country, plus you had a top 10 offense at Houston, you're going to get that kind of attention. So, Pete, I want to switch gears a little bit here to recruiting. Gabby Arrudia put out an article summarizing all the guys that have set official visits to Miami. This is going to be a list that continues to get updated. We'll keep you updated here. We did the bank a couple episodes ago, bringing you guys the absolute latest direct from the sources about where Miami is, where they stand in recruiting, some of the big names that they're targeting. But the number one rule recruiting, watch the visits. So I'm going to give you some guys that have set official visits. Most of these guys have been here unofficially as well. Just names to keep an eye on. Running back, Derek Cooper, the 4-star stud from Chaminade. Also another 4-star, Javian Mallory from West Boca, set his visit. Jay Lamar, we're going to talk about here in a second, another running back from South Georgia. Mari Lattimore, running back. Wide receiver, Braden Robinson. Tight end, Hezi Kent. Tight end, Israel Briggs. Offensive lineman from IMG, Brett Kolajay. Really love that kid. He's a big-time interior lineman. Genevieve Carr, Ryan Moret from Southbridge, Ben Cogden, who we're going to talk about from the Midwest, Cam Brooks, a defensive lineman, Freddie Wilson, a defensive lineman, Jordan Campbell, the soft commit from Miami Carroll City, top 100 player, LB Karan Maycock, there's a linebacker, converted safety linebacker from Central, who's really getting a ton of recruiting attention. I mentioned him in the bank. Listed at 180, much bigger than that, making that transition from safety, intriguing, versatile skill set. J.J. Bush from Alabama, linebacker. Chauncey Kennan, we talked about him in the bank. Elite corner, recruit, cousin of Sam Shields, Sarasota Booker. Jalen Waters, the corner, we talked about it a ton. Your boy Seatbelt, your favorite nickname. This is a long corner from Sefner Armwood, former teammate of running back signee and running back signee Gerard Pringle and linebacker signee Kellen Wiley from that same school. And then John Tavius Wyman, another cornerback. So I gave you a lot of names. I want to zero in on a couple that I think are interesting and worth keeping an eye on, starting with Jay Lamar. This is a running back from South Georgia. He is a cousin of Nikar. South Georgia, not typically where Miami does their best work, but they did go to get Nikar last year from a more rural area. Had him flipped him from his Georgia commit, And Lamar says that even though he loves Georgia, his second favorite school growing up was Miami. And of course, his cousin is there. If you look at the visits he's got set up, we're talking about Auburn, Miami, and Georgia. So deep South Miami recruiting battle. He visited unofficially earlier this month. He said, I learned it's a family here. It's not just about being on a team. I love the colors. Nye Carr loves it here. Coach Merritt's a great person, all the usual kind of stuff you hear. He said that Cristobal told him he likes my style. He lets me know how I am a scary runner. I like to run through people's face mask. So here you see the highlights. This guy's a 3-star right now, but you can tell by his recruiting interest in the schools that have already given an official. This is a big-time player. I'd be shocked if he's not a 4-star player by the end of the day. To me, this is a potential big-time addition, and yeah, I'd love to get this guy in the class.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, he definitely seems like a Mario type of back.
But you saw the balance there, but then look at the speed.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to figure out on what planet this guy's a 3-star. I mean, I know it's early, so these things adjust, but maybe someone could help me out. There you see some wing T action. I mean, this guy is just a bull breaking tackles, and then he's going to the house. I mean, this guy is an absolute monster. Derek Cooper is going to be a major target, who is a local guy, Chaminade, top 50 player, maybe a 5-star when it's all said and done. I think he's probably better on defense, but he's a great offensive player. And Javian Mallory, super productive local guy from West Boca who won state title this year. But this, to me, just from a highlight perspective, and you look at the schools after him, Alabama's after him too, Penn State, Florida State. I mean, this to me looks like borderline 5-star film from a pretty good area of high school football.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, it's good film, and I just it's the mentality he runs with that it looks like he's running like his pants are on fire almost.
So June 13th to 15th, he will be officially visiting. And again, this is someone who's already visited unofficially, who's got a cousin here, who says he grew up as a Hurricane fan. Georgia will be tough to beat, but Georgia was tough to beat for Nye Carr. Miami beat Georgia for Nye Carr. So that is something to keep an eye on. He wears 34. He says his favorite running backs are Bo Jackson and Herschel Walker. And that's what people remind him of.
He grew up watching those guys play.
So yeah, really excited to see that guy develop. He'll be visiting Miami there in mid-June. That is locked in. Some other visits that are locked in that I wanted to focus on. Hezzy Kent, June 6th to June 8th, visiting. This guy's listed as an OT, but he views himself as a tight end. 6'5", 300 pounds from Brunswick, Georgia. DJ Dallas' hometown, right, Pete?
Yep.
He is the 103rd overall player on the 247 composite, the number 8 offensive tackle, number 14 player in Georgia. But again, he sees himself as an offensive lineman, and I think Miami's going to give him a chance to play that. Miami, they use a lot of offensive linemen, and there's nothing wrong with having these guys block. What would Mario like more than having more than 5 offensive linemen on the field? Look at this guy take a screen.
I love it.
So look at break a tackle. Look at the big boy, man. So, I mean, it's interesting because, of course, there's a reason why.
Look at the
Wildcat.
The Wildcat.
I know when you go see these guys that make it to the NFL and you go back and look at their film, this is what it looks like, where guys are doing things that they shouldn't be doing at their size. I always think about Vita Vea, the defensive tackle playing Wildcat when he was in high school. But this big monster, Miami visit him in person during their spring swing. He's displayed a lot of interest in the Canes. And Miami is going to give him a chance, from what I understand, to play tight end. And look, there's no rule that says that you can't have an eligible offensive lineman on the field and call him a tight end. I mean, this guy can catch, as you could see. It's not like he's a big stiff. You're Mario, you say, man, my dream's to have another offensive lineman on the field, and I could throw him passes too.
This is Mario's dream, without a doubt. Mario, if he could have 11 offensive linemen on the field, he would.
But I mean, this is my dream. I mean, this guy's 6'5", 300, taking Wildcat snaps. I don't care. I let him play quarterback. I'd show him Cam Ward film if that's what it takes. Look at this guy taking the screens, man.
Yeah. No, he's a stud.
So you want to talk about guys in this class that have shown interest, that are not just putting us on a list, that have eye-popping ability. To me, this guy right here.
If you're listening to this on audio, you please pull this up. I didn't watch
Look at him
before the show. This is amazing.
He's doing everything, man. It's not just that they're not just like putting him at tight end and having him block. I mean, he's honestly doing more as a skill position player than Luka Gilbert did in his film. I mean, this guy's catching screens. He's running the ball. He's being a Wildcat. He is so big, man. But yeah,
He looks. I mean, he really looks like a creative player. Like
there he is at halfback, taking the direct snap. You and my view of
he's
this,
nimble, man. Look at this.
give him a chance to play tight end. I mean, why not?
Well, especially because look, he obviously has the weight. If it's distributed, the proper way, he's gonna become even more explosive than he is now. He looks like he has a little bit of belly fat on him. But look at this, man. I mean, look at the body control. Look at him track the ball, and then he's making the toe tap on the sideline.
It's an athlete, man. To me, give him every chance to show he's not a tight end. That is how I look at this whole thing. They call him Superman, and look, he says he's down to 5 schools. Georgia is not one of those schools. It's Alabama, Florida, Miami, Texas, and Florida State. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But this is a guy who's been here unofficially. He visited in July of 2024. He visited a game during the season. He is someone who has showed a lot of interest. Visited in October after camping in July. So again, this is somebody with significant Miami interest. And I always say, who's going to be the first rounder of the crew, right? When you're getting these high school classes with the portal and how much attrition you have, it's almost more about how many first rounders and impact guys you get in a high school class, as opposed to, how many contributors you get from a volume standpoint. This dude to me looks like a first round type player.
Yeah.
Multiple
was fun,
visits,
man.
Watch the visits as he can. That's a big name to watch.
Yeah. That's a fun one, man. That was great.
All right. So now to a true offensive lineman. This guy we don't have to worry about playing tight end. Somebody who visited unofficially in January. Someone who the coaches visited on the road. Somebody who has now set his official visit for June 20th to June 22nd. And that is Ben Congdon out of Zoar, Ohio, Tuscarawas Valley. He is a 3-star player, not even rated on the 247 composite, but again, I think they're just a little bit behind on this guy. He's got Penn State interest. He's got a lot of Midwest interest. Indiana's trying to creep in. I think this guy's not going to be a secret very long. But you look at this left tackle, just absolutely mauling people. 6'7", 270, great body type. He's a heavyweight wrestler, which Mirabal absolutely loves. I am stunned that this is a 3-star player. I think he's going to be probably a 4-star before the spring is over. But somebody that Miami was early to get. And he's already visited unofficially, so there's interest. Absolutely love this guy. I think he is big time as big time gets.
An interior guy at the next level?
I mean, he's playing tackle right now. He looks pretty athletic to me. He's 6'7".
I'm asking.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think you
a lot of guys they recruit play tackle at this level.
No doubt, but he's 6'7". He's not the fattest guy in the world. He looks like he's got a pretty good good frame.
6'7"? Okay, well, he doesn't look 6'7" there, maybe.
Well, this is Ohio. They're big boys
off.
out there. They're big boys out there. But I mean, you see, I think, look, he's a tackle. You give him a chance, and if he needs to move inside, he moves inside. But I think certainly he's got. Look, I mean, you just look at his stance. I like to look at when you look at offensive linemen, their stance is the first thing that's going to catch my attention. This guy's flexible. He's balanced. He uses his hands well. Watch the offers, watch the schools, watch the official visits. Forget about the rankings at this point of the recruiting calendar. When Penn State's, who just produces NFL offensive linemen at a pretty high clip, are after a kid like this so hard, you pay attention. Always worry about Midwest kids leaving the Big Ten because they're hard to get, especially to a place like the University of Miami. But the fact he's unofficial, the fact that Mario's visited there, Mirabal's visited there, I think that's telling. Heavyweight wrestler, you see him playing defense as well. All the makings of a guy that's going to play NFL football. Got a comment here from Malp the G. Appreciate your support. He says, one thing that might surprise you is how many South Georgians are Canes fans, even more than FSU fans growing up in Thomasville. Another nugget, a 4-star edge cousin, dad grew up a Canes fan. So there you go. Appreciate that, Malp. Yeah, South Georgia. You talk about Jakari Brown, who he didn't stay, but he was from South Georgia. Thomas Davis, same thing, from Thomasville. Signed with Miami, didn't stay, but signed. DJ Dallas, Salante Hillary, all guys from South Georgia. Now, of course, Nye Carr, member of the Miami Hurricanes.
The question here from 850K and that Scuba Steve also wanted an answer to. He says, D-Money, you think the Chase Smith ship has sailed? I hope not. Love that kid. So I'll let you answer in a second, but I've heard not at all, man. There's a lot of people who are excited about this kid. Saw him the other day. Looks like he's still in great shape. Obviously, we talk about the guys who stick around D and don't transfer out. It's a two-way street. It's guys that aren't pushed out, right, to make way for other players at a position that they're probably going to add guys at. And two, the player sticks around because he knows he can play and he, has stuck it out through a lot. Chase Smith is someone who they think can make an impact. We saw flashes of it last year. I think after those injuries, finally, fully is going to be ready to go this year. And I think could be a surprise player for this team. Has always had the physicality and the size. I think now, once he's fully healthy, get some of that change of direction back. But as a downhill blitzer, as someone who can bring you some size and some speed to the position, I think he could be a nice asset for this team.
Further removed from the injury, more experience. You like to have something you bring in these guys from the portal for experience. It's much nicer to have a guy that's homegrown, who's been through it, who's sacrificed here in Miami. Of course, he's a legacy. So excited to see him in his senior year. I think he's going to help certainly on special teams, more likely also in packages, and then very much potentially as a linebacker. I'd much rather have a guy local like this, some guy who's been in the program, give you that veteran boost and having to go outside the program to get somebody. So Pete's got good information there, and I know that's going to be a name to watch. Question from Kyle: what's our second team offensive line left to right? These guys move around a lot, so let's assume for the purposes of this exercise that everybody's healthy. Brockermeyer's at center, McCoy's at left guard. In that case, I would say your backup center, let's say S.J. Alafatuli at backup center, then your backup guard, Ryan Rodriguez, the tackles, Kinsler and Samson Okunlola, and I'm missing a guard. One name, I don't know if this guy's the backup, but Pete, and you can confirm this, one name that we're hearing might have taken a nice leap forward is Juan Minaya, right? Frankie Tinalau left. Pete, from what you told me, you're hearing that Minaya, who was a little rough when he got here, but had size, made a really nice leap and maybe pushed Tinalau out.
I think those two had really been battling. And I think there was a time that Tinalau, from what I understand, and I think you heard something similar, like early mid part of the season, it seemed like Tinalau had really taken a step. We saw him in the Ball State game look pretty good. And then I think around like Georgia Tech week, something like that, like, I don't know, I think they saw him kind of take a dip, and Juan Minaya kind of took advantage of that and has finished out the year strong. And they're excited about because we always talked about with him, it was the body type and the athletic ability, right? He needed to get stronger, needed to really become a man, as we say in the trenches there, right? Not everyone is Francis right off the bat, but I think he's getting closer to being a guy who can work himself into the mix.
Yeah, so excited to see what he can bring. You also have Derek Plass, some other guys in the mix there, and then of course you're adding Max Buchanan. He's going to push for that for some time here.
I think Buchanan could be a surprise to be maybe like the fourth guard.
So last guy I want to talk about here before we get going. This is somebody who has been identified as an under the radar player in Alabama. We look at last year, Miami lands Cam Pruitt, plays as a true freshman. Cole McConaughey plays as a true freshman. Both those guys played real defensive snaps in contested games as true freshmen, underrated 3-star type players from Alabama. It's a state that produces a ton of talent. One name I want to highlight, J.J. Bush, linebacker from Theodore, Alabama, 6'3", 206 listed. From those who've seen him in person, they say he's probably closer to 215, 220 by now. 3-star player for some reason, but Alabama people say he's going to be one of the best players in Alabama by the time it's all said and done, and that he's an under-the-radar guy. That Theodore sounds familiar. That is where Miami got Cam Pruitt. These two are very close, and it doesn't take a lot of film to see why J.J. Bush is somebody that Miami really wants to get. As you can see, just like Cam Pruitt, he delivers absolute strikes. He is not a tackler. He is a hitter, and look at this. Look at him returning kicks. I mean, this guy is a complete athlete. When you see your linebacker who's 6'3", 215, returning kicks and showing this kind of athletic ability in Alabama, that's no joke. Your eyes get wide, which is what to be honest, all four of these guys to me are woefully underrated. Aside from Superman, the big guy who was a top 100 player, I think
I
all
was gonna
three of these
say
guys are
Hezzy.
Hezzy.
Hezzy, I don't think my eyes are gonna get as wide as they were when I saw Hezzy's
But look at this
highlights.
guy
But
playing.
no,
This guy's a linebacker, guys.
You know who he reminds me of, D, and this is a guy who played running back and linebacker, but James Wilder.
Yes.
That sort of build.
Yeah.
And the way he
6'3".
was running there. Yeah. But James Wilder was always a guy that everyone was like, man, he should, if he played linebacker, he's a first round pick at linebacker. And he didn't play linebacker, but like this dude looks like that sort of, I mean, same body type, if I'm not mistaken.
He reminds me of Bobby Pruitt in terms of the versatility and the just athleticism, but he's bigger than Pruitt. I think he is closer to Wilder's size. I could see the comp 100% with that height.
I got the comp stamp of approval from D. I don't know if I should be nervous about my comparison now.
Well,
I'll
be comparing him to Lawrence Taylor.
Exactly. I was gonna say I went a lot more modest with mine. So.
I mean, look at this. Look at the closing speed on this guy. I mean, how is this guy unranked right now? It's bizarre. You do see that though. There are some Alabama guys that tend to slip through the cracks. Again, Miami signed 2 of them last year. They were pretty much underrated around this time, and both of those guys played as true freshmen on the defense. So, if this guy's really scratching 215, 220, and Gabby saw him in person and suggested that, I have no reason to think otherwise. Very, very, very intriguing prospect. You want to get on him early before the SEC schools really put up the pressure. Of course, he has the tie to Camp Pruitt, who he considers like a mentor. Another guy playing Wildcat quarterback. Look how tough this guy is to finish these runs. Pete, we talked about this before. Draft season's coming up. I always like to go and say, with the 3 stars that end up being first-round draft picks, what are some common themes that you see? And one thing I saw when I go back and look at these 3 stars that develop into NFL first-rounders, a lot of them played Wildcat quarterback, particularly the defensive players, because you put your best athlete, your most trustworthy guy at that spot, and you just snap it to him. So
you said trustworthy too. It's like to handle the ball, you got to trust that they're not going to fumble it or do something stupid with it. So,
or in football instincts, I mean, here, look at this guy just dragging people as a kick returner. These are big time athletes, man.
Yeah, I like him a lot.
This class, these 4 guys we've highlighted, I'd take all 4 of them and be really, really excited. These are guys, again, that have visited unofficially, that have shown particular interest. That's why they're being highlighted, and who have set official visits to the University of Miami. In the case of JJ Bush, we'll be seeing him June 6th at the University of Miami. Some other folks you'll be seeing at the University of Miami, the Canes baseball team. So time is running out. Miami Hurricanes baseball tickets are on sale, but only until February 14th for season tickets. For just $175, lock in your spot for all 32 home games at Alex Rodriguez Park at Mark Light Field. Don't miss marquee matchups against UConn, FSU, Duke, Georgia Tech, NC State, and Notre Dame. The ACC is absolutely stacked this year. Some people think it's the best conference in college baseball. Experience the thrill of the U, the legendary Mark Light Shakes, and the wild energy of the Miami Maniacs. Secure your seats before they're gone. Visit MiamiHurricanes.com or call 1-800-GO-CANES today. And this Saturday, FanFest alumni game. FanFest at 2:30, alumni game at 6. Free admission, autograph session, family-friendly fun. Come watch some of the Canes legends, including our boy Harold, at the Light, taking on this year's crop of Miami Hurricanes baseball. So really enjoying some of the practice I've been able to go to, the scrimmages. This team's going to be fun to watch. Can't get worse than last year. I think you're going to see something closer to the Miami standard, certainly better than last year's performance as this team competes for a tournament spot in what is looking to be one of the best ACC years we can remember. Again, some national observers saying that the ACC might be better than the mighty SEC this year in college baseball.
We've gotten a couple questions here about Gerard Pringle, asking us if we think he's going to be a guy who contributes. I mean, look, out of necessity, he's going to have to. I think there's a good chance he's a number 3 running back, and that's going to be obviously behind Fletcher and Lyle. So you always need a 3rd and 4th back in the lineup, right? So you never know how much you're going to use them, but I think Pringle is a good chance that he ends up being the 3rd guy. Now, Lofton could also get some carries as well, so I think he's also in the mix in the backfield potentially. But Pringle, I think he's a necessity. You need him.
Yeah, I think Pringle's going to be someone we're all talking about in spring, assuming he's healthy. He is just lightning, super fast, 10.6 type speed. Plus, he's strong for his size, can break tackles, more of a pure running back at this stage than Chris Johnson. So I think he's going to give you a more advanced. I think Chris Johnson was going to end up being good, but I think Pringle will be a more advanced, more ready to play version of what you hope Chris Johnson would be. And that is a home run threat at the running back spot and the kick return spot year one.
All right, D. Well, we appreciate everyone who's been on with us here today. Thank you to everyone. Almost at 1,400 live here. So remember to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel as we go live every day here on Canes Insight. If you're seeing us here on Twitter, remember to go check out our YouTube page and the website, canesinsight.com as well. It's completely free.
Like and subscribe. Go Canes.
Go Canes.